Hey, welcome to How to Play, brought to you by the Games Capital. Today we're looking back at a classic, Ticket to Ride. First published in 2004, and in fact it won the Spiel des Jahres, or the Game of the Year, back in 2004, and has gone on to become a classic board game. It spawned numerous sequels and variations, Ticket to Ride Europe, Ticket to Ride Switzerland, there's maps of Asia, maps of Africa, the UK. Also a card game, a dice game. You can play it on your tablets, your phones. It's become a well-known game. This is the original version with the map of the United States, and the basic idea is that you're going to be creating railroad tracks across the country, connecting various cities depending on what tickets you have in your possession. More on that later, but first of all, let's have a look at what's in the box. Okay, so the components for Ticket to Ride consist of a fairly large game board, as you can see, that depicts the map. In this instance, it's the United States with all these various connections. Each player will have a set of train tokens. There are enough for 5 players in the game. You'll have one little scoring marker that you use to keep track of your score around the edge of the board. Then there are the train cards. Now this is an older version, the original version, and I think the newer version has larger cards, but basically you've got train cards in various colours which represent or match the different lines on the board. And finally there is a set of ticket cards. Now these depict 2 different cities on the board, and each of them has a different point value, and I'll explain in a moment how they come into play during the game, but there's a whole heap of those. So that's basically the components for the game. Let's have a look at how it works. To begin the game, each player is given 4 of these train cards as a starting hand. So they'll have those, and then the remaining cards are placed in a draw pile, but 5 cards are placed face up on display next to the board, and then they're ready to go. Each player will also receive 3 of these ticket cards into their hand. Now the way these work is each card depicts 2 cities on the board. In this instance, for example, we've got Chicago and New Orleans. So Chicago here, New Orleans down the bottom of the map. What you want to try and do during the game, if you have this card, is make sure by the end of the game you have connected those 2 cities with your coloured trains by laying them on the board on these tracks. Now you can go the most direct route if you like, or you can take a different route. You can go any way you want, as long as by the end of the game those 2 cities have been connected, and you will earn, in this case, 7 points. Conversely, if you fail to connect the cities, then you're going to lose whatever points are depicted on those cards. So at the start of the game, you'll get 3 of those, and you'll have a look at them, see where on the board you need to travel to. At that point, when you've got those 3 cards, you can elect to discard one of them if you feel that it's not really fitting in with the others, but you can keep all 3 if you like. You must keep at least 2. So once you've got your hand ready to go, the game will begin. The game turn consists of 3 possible actions. So the first action that you can take is collecting train cards. So as I said before, there's going to be 5 train cards face up on display. And if you take this action, you can take 2 train cards into your hand. Now you can select 1 card from the face up pile and then wait and see what the replacement is before taking the second card. You also can choose to take cards directly from the top of the pile. If none of the colours here are ones that you want, you can choose to take them from the top of the pile. Now, why are you wanting to take these cards? Well, each of the colours of the cards represents or matches the tracks or lines that are on the board. And I want to collect those cards in order to play them to put trains out on the board. So for example, here on the board, if I want to connect Toronto with Chicago, I would need 4 white train cards to make that connection, and I would get to put 4 trains out. So that's why I would be potentially wanting to collect those white cards. In addition to that, there are also these locomotive cards, which act as wild cards. So they can represent or take the place of any colour card when using them to place trains on the board. So the action is to take 2 train cards into your hand. The only thing with that is if you take a locomotive card from the face-up pile, you can only take that 1 card. Because it's quite powerful, you only get to take that 1 card. So that's the action. Very simple, taking 2 cards into your hand. The next action that you can perform is to use the cards that you've collected on previous turns to place trains out onto the board to start connecting those cities that you have as your tickets. So to do that, you will need to play cards matching the spot that you want to add. You can only do 1 length of track at a time, but obviously each length is of varying sizes. So using that same example, Toronto to Chicago, I would need 4 white cards. Here in my hand I've got 3 white and 1 locomotive, so I could play those, putting them onto the discard pile, and I take 4 trains and place them onto that section of track. Now once I have claimed that track, then that's locked for me. If somebody else was wanting to use that area to get to a ticket that they have in their hand, now it's blocked. They might have to take a detour and go a different way. So getting in early can be good, but sometimes also you reveal where you're heading as well. So there's a bit of strategy involved in that. Now, when you place those trains, you also score points, and depending on the length of track, each section is worth a different amount. So for 4 trains, you earn 7 points. If you did 5, you'd get 10. If you did 3, you just get 4 points, and so on. But there's a spot on the board which shows what each section is worth. So you're earning points as you are putting the trains on the board, and then also at the end of the game you're going to earn those bonus points for completing your tickets. So that's the second action, putting trains out onto the board. There's one more action that you can perform. Okay, so the third and final option for an action that you can take on your turn is to take more of these ticket cards. Now this action doesn't occur too often during the game, but as the game progresses you may find that you've completed the first 2 or 3 tickets that you got at the start of the game, or perhaps you're getting close to finishing those. You may elect to take more of those cards in order to earn more points or bonus points at the end of the game. So if you take that action, you take 3 of those ticket cards, have a good look at them, study where they are on the board. You must keep one of those cards. You can keep all 3 if you like, but you must keep at least one of them. Sometimes they fit perfectly into an area that you've already been working on. Other times it's a complete new area of the board. So you've just got to take that into account and what stage of the game you're in as to whether it's going to be easy to finish that off. Also, as the game gets towards the end, you've got to take into account how many trains you actually have left and whether you'll be able to complete those tickets. So that's the third option for an action. Now with those 3 different actions, taking cards, putting trains onto the board, or taking tickets, you perform one of those 3 actions each turn, and only one of those. So the game moves fairly quickly, depending on what actions you're going to take. Your turn won't take too long. All right, let's have a look at how the game finishes. So the game continues with players taking those various actions until one player has 2 or less trains left in their supply. As soon as that happens, each player has 1 more turn with which to try and get trains out onto the board and complete tickets to earn those points, and then the game's finished. Each player will then reveal their tickets and earn bonus points if they've managed to complete those tickets, or lose points if they were unsuccessful. There is also a bonus of 10 points for the person who has the longest line of continual trains. So the longest continuous connection of trains will earn 1 player 10 bonus points. At that point, whoever has the highest score obviously is the winner. In summary, During the game, players are trying to complete several train tickets by connecting cities on the board. Each turn there is a choice of 3 actions. Take coloured train cards, play train cards to put trains on the board, or collect more ticket cards. Players earn points for placing trains on the board and bonus points at the end of the game for completing tickets. The game ends when one player has 2 or less trains in their supply. So the beauty of Ticket to Ride is its simplicity. At its core, it's a very simple game. You either take train cards into your hand, or you use train cards that you've collected to put trains out onto the board to try and complete those tickets. Very simple, and yet there's still a lot of strategy in deciding when the best time to do it is before you get blocked, whether you're going to take a chance on getting more tickets depending on the point of the game. Can you earn some more bonus points? So there's a bit to think about, even though it's a very simple game. Great for families because of its simplicity, but more serious gamers will certainly enjoy playing a game of Ticket to Ride. The other good thing about this too is because it has so many different variations, once you've learned the basic Ticket to Ride, you can pretty much play any of those variations. Most of them have some slight rule tweaks, maybe something new has been added, but essentially the gameplay stays the same. Some of them allow you just to purchase a new map, a new board to play on. Others, it's a whole new game with some new components. But if you haven't checked out Ticket to Ride yet, make sure you do. Okay, thanks for watching. Happy gaming.